And there's Keith Flynn.
Thank you, Sue. I guess I'll start just with a little bit of background about my story, because I guess you'd like to know a little bit about me. Who's this guy standing up front? I am a Kiwi. It gets worse. Oh, another Kiwi. Excellent, excellent. It gets worse. I come off a farm. So, yeah, whereabouts? Whereabouts?
Just south of Oamaru.
Oh, you're a southerner. Down south they roll in R's. They say gore. Lovely. Lovely. Oh.
I've still got it.
I know.
Yes.
I know.
Can't believe it.
So I grew up on a farm, and in my early 20s I left New Zealand and I crossed the ditch, and I was on my overseas experience. I was sort of like bulletproof, so I sort of decided I'd head to Australia, and I was on my mission to get to Europe, and in Europe I was going to buy a BMW car and a BMW bike and bring them back. Do you know of any like 20-year-olds that have dreams like this? I got as far as Melbourne. It's quite cosmopolitan there.
Lots of people.
Yeah.
You met a woman.
Bang on! Bang on, and I fell in love. So my priorities changed, as they do. So then I was very focused on living the Australian dream, which is to own your own home. You know, you work very hard and own your own home. And I was working so hard, I sort of neglected one thing, and that was my family. And for working really, really hard, I came within about $10,000 of owning a lovely property, beachside, if you know Melbourne, beachside. It was Hampton. It was a poor cousin between Brighton and Sandringham. I came within $10,000 of owning a home, and my wife decided she wanted a slightly different life. And that devastated me. I don't know if you've had dreams and suddenly the rug's been taken out from under you. Well, that's what happened to me. And for a long time, I was very depressed. And there was one thing that our family doctor did for me, and that was gave me a referral to a psychiatrist. Now, can you imagine someone in their late 30s going along to a psychiatrist in Australian culture? It's sort of not the thing you do. But anyway, the thing that I really got from this gentleman was when I was at my lowest, I would call him up and he'd make an appointment for a couple of days down the track. I'd go along and I'd sort of be through my crisis, and then he would actually validate me. And that went on for a number of weeks. It went for a couple of months or so. But that got me out of a crisis. So I guess the one thing he didn't do for me, looking back in hindsight, was suggested that I actually continue to work with somebody. Because I sort of got myself back up and then sort of drifted along for a number of years dealing with my depression. I had the opportunity to move to Perth. It was a little bit like the universe saying, you suck at what you're doing in Melbourne. Let's move you right over the other side of the country and give you a fresh start. So I was offered a job at BHP Billiton, and it was a well-paid job. I was earning a multiple six-figure income. But I was not happy. Have you ever sort of been, when things should be okay and you should be happy, but you're just not happy with the way things are going on in your life? Well, that's where I was at. And I guess I was praying, I was looking, I was asking for something else. I was asking for a different way. And a friend invited me along to an event on a Wednesday night, which changed my life. It was actually a network marketing event. I know some people like network marketing, some people don't. But the thing that I got from that event was hope. At that event, I got hope that I wouldn't have to work for somebody in the future. That there was a way out for me. And that sowed the seed of hope. I must admit, I sucked at that business. But it led me to another thing. It led me to a gentleman by the name of Chris Howard, who was running some personal development courses. And have you heard of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP? Some of you might have, some of you may not have. It's like to do with the mind and the way we think. So I paid some good money to do his courses and started up a private life coaching practice because my passion was to help people. And then, just fast forward a little bit, I got a little bit better at the network marketing business. I'm still in it. I haven't gone to the top yet, but I'm still going there. And it was actually at the beginning, about 2 years ago, when I was running into some personal challenges. I wasn't getting ahead like I wanted to. Has that ever happened to any of you guys? It's like you're going along, something happens, and you just seem to get stuck. And so what do you do when you get stuck?
So.
You Google. Is that what you do? You Google. Yeah, I'm stuck. How do I get unstuck? You know, you can just Google anything. And for some reason, I had this I don't know, I've got a bookshelf of books and tapes, and I went in there and I pulled down a book called Phoenix, which is, have you ever heard of Milton Erickson? Milton Erickson is the father of hypnosis in the US. And he has a very interesting story because when he was a child, he had polio. And like really they'd sort of practically written him off. And he was very much paralysed and in a whole lot of pain. But when he was in that pain and all the rest of it, the one thing he could do was use his eyes, and he observed his baby sister. And when he was watching his baby sister, watching her learn to gain control of her muscles and learn to move. And so he used his mind to train himself to walk. So he became acutely aware, like he could read people. You know, he could see the pulse in their neck. He could read slight changes in skin tone. So he was phenomenal at knowing what was going on unconsciously with people. And then with became a therapist, and with his therapist, people would come into him, he'd tell a story, and they'd walk out changed. So he worked very much with the unconscious mind. So anyway, I sort of Googled Milton Erickson, and I found a little, you know, when you Google hypnosis, you get the hypnosis shows, right? You get all those people doing silly things. And then I came across something that forever changed my life. It was something I'd not seen before in the hypnosis, and that was some distinctions about how our mind works. And I'm going to share some of those with you today. And actually, I hadn't planned to talk about this, but this is fun. I'll give you the full story. It was to do with how the mind works, and I went on, watched the video, I went for about 45 minutes. I went to the place where the video originated. It's called Hypnosis Motivational Institute in the US. And I did their short course. And at that end of the short course, I had the confidence to say I can help anyone get into a hypnotic state. Before I didn't have that confidence. There and then I made a decision. I said, I'll complete their course and I'll become a hypnotherapist. And that's what I did. When I'd done that and when I'd made that decision, I rang up a friend, a close friend, and we were chatting when I said, oh, by the way, this might sound really strange. I've now got a private hypnotherapy practice. And she said, well, that's really interesting. And she and her husband had moved out from the UK, and over in the UK, she had studied to be a hypnotherapist. Interesting. But what happened with her is her husband was in the armed services. And while her husband was in the armed services, a number of the people in the armed services went along to a hypnosis show and were doing silly things like quacking like ducks. And the armed services said no one can have anything to do with hypnosis, hypnotherapy, or hypnosis shows. So her career just got like chopped. That was the end of story. So when I was speaking to her, and I'd known her for a little while, she'd actually joined my network marketing business, and we were good friends. And then she shared with me that, this gets a little bit messy, she had women issues. She was in her early 50s. Some of you are laughing. And what had happened is she started bleeding, and it was sort of wasn't improving, and she had an operation, and it got worse. So here she is, she's, well, sorry to say, in a messy state, sort of socially, and anyway. But the real challenge was that the next step was to have a hysterectomy. And the only option, the only challenge with that was that her family has a history of being allergic to anaesthetic. So here she is faced having an operation where she could potentially die from the anaesthetic. So what do? Google. And I Googled it. And there are a number of women that have had hysterectomies under hypnosis. Yeah. A number of women have had operations under hypnosis. And I Googled a little bit further and I found there's actually a documentary and it runs for like about an hour and a half, and a guy has a hernia operation and he goes to the hypnotherapist and you see the first cut. Yeah, you see it. And you see them, you know, and they've got a whole panel of people around, so they're going into the operation, they're coming back talking to the experts, and he's there with his hypnotherapist, and you see the first cut and you see them pulling it apart, and you see them snipping and putting it in and poking all the rest of it, and no anaesthetic. No anaesthetic. Yeah. And the operation ends and you see them stitch him up. Have you stitch up? And he gets up and he literally gets off the table and goes and has a meal, because he's not having to suffer any of the side effects of the anaesthetic. And the other thing is there was less bleeding and his body was able to heal more quickly. So here I am thinking, well, what we'll do now is we'll work with this lady, we'll get her to control her pain, and then I'll go and find a doctor. I'm thinking I've got a good niche here. I think it's a real good niche. So she comes in, she's a really good subject. She's actually what they term somnambulistic. Those are the people that are very, very suggestible. Those are the people that the hypnosis show pull out of the audience and get up on stage. So they're just very, very suggestible. Anyway, so she comes in, we have her first session, take her really, really deep, and I just make some general suggestions that the body can heal itself. You know, just as I'm preparing her and like we were going to work. And then she goes away and I get a call 3 days later. And she says, you know that session we had? My period has returned. My cycle has returned. Her body healed itself. And she hasn't had to have that operation. That was the first person I spoke to. That was the result of my first session. Do you think my belief went like this? So that's a little bit of my story and how I got into this. So I'm very, very passionate about helping people. So I've got to be a little bit conscious of time. Oh, by the way, I've had a couple of people I know with fibromyalgia, so I know that it's sometimes very difficult sitting still and you need to move. Please feel free, if you need to move or get up, if you're in discomfort, please just stand up. I won't take offence. I know I've had people with back pain, you know, they'll walk to the back of the room. So please just make this as comfortable for you as possible. Right, way behind time here. Do you find that interesting? So first of all, let me ask you, and you get a little bit of exercise here as well, so can we do this? Can we just try even a little bit? Right, that's good. And this one, so you've got a spare. So look, raise your hand if you've ever had any challenges in your life. Very good. Oh, you've had no challenges?
I just, when you spoke about Google, I thought I must tell you, my cousin sent me a photo of a man wearing a T-shirt yesterday on Facebook, and the T-shirt said, "I don't need Google, my wife knows everything."
I love it. All right. Have you ever had challenges changing some area in your life? Yeah. And raise your hand if you'd like to improve the quality of your life. Sensational. I know I'm in the right room now. Now, what I'd like to actually do is I really want to check in, because I know pain's a big deal for you guys. So just check in with yourselves and just evaluate roughly on a level of 1 to 5 where you are sitting right at the moment in terms of your pain. You can just take a mental note. Also just check in how relaxed you're feeling. You may be relaxed or not. And again, just give it a number between 1 and 5, where 5 is high. So higher relaxation means you're like chilled.
You haven't put us to sleep yet.
Exactly. And on your happiness level, how are you feeling generally in your life, where you are in your life? Okay, so just check in, write those numbers down, and just take a mental note of those numbers. And check in throughout our talk and just see if any of those change. Because this talk is about the mind, and what you might find is when your mind is on other things, it might take your attention off pain. So you might be putting your attention on pain now, it might be a 5, and then suddenly you go, oh, I'm not feeling anything, and then as soon as you think I'm not feeling pain, it comes back. So there's something magical about that. So here's the first distinction, it's about understanding our mind. I call this the theory of the mind. Here is our mind. Does anyone here have children?
Yes.
Yep. So would you agree that a child's mind is blank? It's an empty vessel to be filled. When they're born. When a child is born. Yeah? So let's divide the mind into 2 parts, and for some reason I'm missing part of the screen here. That's okay. That says conscious mind. That says unconscious mind. And that says percentage. That percentage is actually 12. And that percentage is, for the mathematicians, oh no, sorry, the top one is 8%, the bottom one is 92%, something like that. So about 8%, between 5 and 12% of what we do is conscious. Between, whatever the mathematicians are, I'm not a mathematician here, 93 to 88 is unconscious. Did you know we have about 60,000 thoughts a day? Easily, yeah. And most of them are the same ones we had yesterday. So we also have this area down here.
Is that the same for men and women? Because we know what men's thoughts are most of the time.
That's right. Again, it's repetitive. So we also have the primitive mind. Have you heard of the primitive mind? It's part of the reptilian brain, which is at the base of the skull. And that is responsible for our fight and flight. Right, you've heard of that? So our conscious mind is where our willpower is, our short-term memory, where we have conscious choice, where our rational thinking is happening, and where we learn. Okay? Our unconscious mind is about the knowns. The unconscious mind actually doesn't distinguish between good and bad or whatever, it's just things that are known. So this is where our long-term memory, this is where our beliefs are, our habits, our emotional responses, our body control, and our personality. All that lives at the unconscious level. Like right now, you don't have to think about blinking. You don't have to think about your heart beating. You're probably just aware of your feet and your shoes because I mentioned it. So that's all handled by the unconscious. Now, at about the age of 5 or 6, a thing develops called the critical faculty. And up until about that age, for those that have had children, you'll know that you can tell a child, like when they're 3 or 4, you tell them about Father Christmas, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, and they 100% believe it. If you tell a 4-year-old that we're going for a trip to the moon tomorrow, they will go to bed that night, pack their bags, knock on the door and go, I'm ready to go. They believe everything. And we were once children. So we had that downloaded ourselves. When you get past the age of 5, that's when they start playing you. So let's just simplify that and you'll see the figures come across. There we go. Isn't that nice? So that's roughly how our mind works. So we've had stuff that has been put into us in our childhood that is so familiar to us that it's like second nature. And that's where some of our challenges occur. That's one of the reasons why when you're trying to make changes, you're fighting between the conscious mind and the unconscious. And guess who wins most of the time? The unconscious. Ever seen anyone like try and go on a diet? Yeah, exactly. It's the unconscious that will win out most of the time. So what's under the water? Here's some pretty pictures of icebergs. Aren't they beautiful? There's more under the water. So, what's under the water? So, when we see people, and sometimes even with ourselves, when we see people, we see the environment they're in, we see their behaviours. We hear their words and language and their appearance. So we make some judgments externally. We also make those judgments on ourselves. But then what's under the water? We have our identity, our beliefs, our attitudes, our values, our perceptions, our assumptions, our coping mechanisms, our desires, our priorities, our exceptions, and the last one, our baggage. All of those unresolved past issues. We've all got them. I've got them still, working on them. So this is what happens in relationships. You get two icebergs meeting. Whether it's personal relationships or business relationships. Because you don't know what's under the water of the other person. And I came across this as well. This is when a girl talks to a guy, that's what he understood. That's what she meant. When a guy talks to a girl, that's what he meant. That's what she understood. Oh, yeah. And sometimes do you feel like this? Or this?
Please tell me that polar bear found a big float to go around and drown.
They swim well.
He looks very thin though.
So one of the things I like about your group is you're a support group. So you don't need to feel alone. You've got other people that are going through similar things that you're going through and that they understand where you're coming from. And you can talk to them. And you can validate each other. In my journey, I haven't had fibromyalgia. I have, however, had gallstones. Or kidney stones. That was not nice. I had a frozen shoulder. And I couldn't find, at the worst of it, I couldn't find a place in my bed to get sleep at night. Now, I'm probably thinking that's the closest I can relate to you because I know you guys live with it every day and just about all the time every day. Having that for 1 year was bad enough. So I can relate a little bit, but I can't relate long term to what you guys are going through. So here's some things about our mind and our reality. Which dot is larger? The orange one, which is larger? They're the same, but doesn't that one on the right look a bit larger? Yeah. And what I say about this is, if we have big problems in our life, don't some other problems look really, really small? And that same problem, if we have little problems in our life, doesn't that become really, really large? Again, it's one of perception. Just keep an eye on the time, 35, you're right. Those lines are straight. Yeah. Yeah. Those are circles. That's okay if you can't have this close, right? Those are circles. If you trace it around, right? Trace this one around. I'll do it with this. Trace this one. I have trouble keeping onto it. That is a circle. See how your mind can trick you? The other thing is when there's something missing, our mind fills it in. Our mind has this thing about filling in things. Where are the black dots? Yeah, they're all white. And then what do you see? Two faces or a vase, yeah, again. Yeah, an urn, whichever way you look at it. Yeah. So do you all see the old lady and the young woman? Yeah. So there's the old lady's mouth and chin, nose, and there's the young lady's nose and eyes. So these are classics. Yeah.
Two people.
Yeah. Yeah, so two men, there's one face, there's another face, and there's a woman's face. Yeah.
When you first look at it, already see it too true.
Exactly, exactly. The mind's trying to, that's like, well, what's that? You know, our mind's trying to make sense of that. Yeah, it's Ryan Atkinson, yeah, but which way is he looking? I'll move on. Have you seen the drawings on the footpath?
Yes.
Yeah. Again, it's one of perspective. You look at it one way, and that's what it is. And that's how it's drawn. Isn't it amazing? That's what it is. Isn't it? Well, she's actually sitting behind, those are her legs. She's sitting behind him, he's just leaned over on the side. But her mind will sort of look and go, what? Yeah. Yeah, that's her elbow. It's just two arms. We all live in our comfort zone. How big's a baby's comfort zone? Massive. You put a baby in this room and it will do anything, yeah? And what happens? What's the most common word a child hears? No. So it goes, no, 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 no. So we all live in our comfort zone. All of us. But here's where the magic happens. Here's where the magic happens. So I view this as being our growth zone, to move out of our comfort zone to where the magic happens. However, I believe most people, then there's the panic zone. It's like you go and try something new and hey, no, I'll go back, it's safe, thank you. Except I believe most people see it like that. Yeah. When I did this up, I was doing this up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I realised my job is to help people move out of their comfort zone into their growth zone, avoiding the panic zone, so that they can move towards where the magic happens. And I also came up with this, so I call this crisis point change. So here's our comfort zone again. And most people will go through life like this. They think about earning money. Spend money, earn money, earn money, earn money, spend money, spend money, spend money, earn money, earn money, earn money. Oh, get a little bit of tat slider. Guess what I do? I spend it. Because most people are uncomfortable having extra money. And then they go, and then they hit a crisis. They lose their job. Marriage falls apart, whatever. It's at this point that most people are open to change. I personally believe that our medical system is more designed to help people get back into their comfort zone and become functioning people, rather than to help them actually get to the point of where they live better lives. You break a leg, you fix a leg, get them back to work. Someone has a mental breakdown, you fix them up, give them a few pills, you get them back to work. Unfortunately, that's just my opinion. There are good people out there. I know there are passionate people out there and they're doing a great job, but I think, it's a very hard job. So here's where the magic happens. It's just doing a few small things consistently every day. Doing something a little bit extra. It's like, how do you put on weight? It's eating something a little bit extra every day. How do you lose it? It's eating a little bit less every day. It's just doing things consistently. How do you get fit? You start doing a little bit of extra exercise every day, and you just do it consistently over a period of time. Most people give up. Most people don't consistently do it, or they don't have the support to keep them going when they're feeling down. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And the greatest enemy of human potential is our comfort zone. So the biggest challenges we have are getting out our own comfort zone. How thoughts and emotions affect our body. Gaining control of our emotions. Ooh. Okay, that's right. How do thoughts and emotions affect our body?
In many ways.
Yeah.
Stress levels.
Stress, yes.
Think you
Pain.
think you were going to do that day and you should have done that day.
Yep. So, do our emotions drive our thoughts, or do our thoughts drive our emotions?
Thoughts drive.
Yeah. It's what we think that drives our emotions. So it's actually our thoughts that trigger our emotions, even though we might think sometimes it's our emotion drive our thoughts. Yeah? Because you can be really, think of this, you're really happy, and then someone grumps at you or yells at you or whatever. It's that thought that fires up memories that reinstates the emotions in our body. So it is actually thought which drives our emotions. Because our emotions are actually a chemical reaction in our body. So our thoughts will generate a chemical reaction which goes and floods our body with stuff. So that's how it affects us, in simplistic terms. So if you want to feel happy, you think happy thoughts. Just try it now, think a happy thought. Everyone smiling is feeling a lot better, right? Right? Yeah, because that releases the endorphins in our body. You want to feel better, you think happy. Now I'll give you one simple tip. Does anyone get a little bit depressed? Get a little bit down? How do you sit when you're down? Isn't it like this? If you just do this, or everyone just do this, how do you feel? Sore. Okay, but if you lift your head up, actually try this. Drop your head down. Someone doesn't hurt you. Yeah, I was going to say, just do what you can. Drop your eyes or whatever. And sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star in a low voice in your mind. Don't have to do it out loud. Got it? Now lift your head or your eyes up and look up and sing it. Try and sing it in a low voice. You can't do it. It goes up. If you've got a child or if you're feeling down, all you need to do is look up and that will lift your mood. Physiologically, when we change ourselves physiologically, we actually change the way we think and we feel. Our physiology, so our emotions can then affect our physiology. But likewise, if we change our physiology, we can affect our emotions and how we feel. Simple technique. All right. Gaining control of our mind and emotions. Our nervous system, the autonomic nervous system controls activities of our organs, glands and various involuntary muscles such as cardiac and smooth muscles. So we have a nervous system that controls us. We have two types. We have a sympathetic nervous system which prepares our body for fight and flight. That's when the adrenaline pumps. Yep. And we have a parasympathetic nervous system which only activates when activates tranquil functions like secreting saliva and enzymes in the stomach. Guess which one you're in when you're in pain? Sympathetic. Yeah. So for our health, we need to be more relaxed. We need to be more chilled. So you guys are probably having a little bit of a fight because you're in this in the sympathetic when you're in pain. You're wanting to fight, and that also creates tension in your body. And you might also notice that you might breathe a little bit shallower. if you just learn to breathe a little bit deeper, you actually change from sympathetic to parasympathetic. So again, another way that you can change how you're feeling is just relaxing and breathing deeper is another way that you can help change yourself. Now, this is a technique, the Sedona method. This is the promise to give you something to take away to change. It's a very, very simple technique. It's very powerful. And what I'm simply going to do is actually read a little bit about the founder. His name's Lester Levinson. Lester created the Sedona method to save his own life. Lester Levinson was a man who had mastered life's greatest challenges. In 1952, at the age of 42, Lester, a physicist and successful entrepreneur, was at the pinnacle of worldly success, yet he was unhappy and a very unhealthy man. He had many health problems, including depression, an enlarged liver, kidney stones, spleen trouble, hyperacidity, ulcers that had perforated his stomach and formed lesions. He was so unhealthy that, in fact, after having his second coronary, his doctors sent him home to a Central Park South penthouse apartment in New York to die. It's like, we can't do anything more for you, just go and die. Lester was a man who loved challenges, so instead of giving up, he decided to go back to the lab within himself and find some answers. Because of his determination and concentration, he was able to cut through his conscious mind to find what he needed. He found that what he found was the ultimate tool for personal growth, a way of letting go all of the inner limitations. He was so excited by his discovery that he used it intensively for a period of 3 months, and at the end of the period, his body became totally healthy again. Furthermore, he entered into a state of profound peace that never left him till the day he died in 1994. So here's a man on his deathbed, has now completely healed himself. He said, I began asking myself, what do I want out of life? And the answer was happiness. Investigating further, I went into a moment where I was feeling the happiest. I discovered something which to me was startling at the time. It was when I was loving that I was the happiest. That happiness equated to my capacity to love rather than be loved. That was the starting point. And then he goes on to, develop it as a system and share it with other people. Dale Hale Dorskin is now a teacher of the Sedona method. And it's a very, very simple method that you can use every day. The first part of this method, and you may want to either take mental notes, I would encourage you to write it down. I think Stuart's going to put out the slides anyway, so you'll get a copy of them. So the first thing to do is embrace fully and accept the feeling or emotion. So if you're feeling really unhappy, you actually embrace it. You don't try and get rid of it. You simply just embrace it, acknowledge it, and feel it in the moment. Just be with it in the moment. Then there are a series of 3 questions you ask yourself just over and over again. Because let me ask you this. Everyone here has felt a little bit sad or depressed at times, yeah? And then after that, you felt happy, yeah? So it's only a matter of time you go from feeling sad and depressed to feeling happy, yeah? So it happens. It's just how long do you stay here to get to here? Yeah? So this is what this method is doing, is shortcutting that process. So you first of all feel it and embrace it, and then you just ask yourself the question, could I let this, I'll use depression, could I let this feeling of depression go? And it doesn't matter what your mind says. Your mind will say, no, I'm really happy being depressed. Then you ask yourself, would I let this go? You don't care whether it's a yes or no answer. And then you say when. And you simply cycle through these questions. You can apply this to anything and everything. It's such a simple, powerful technique. And this is the technique that he developed to heal himself. By learning to let go of everything that stopped him being a loving person. Learning to let go of anger. Learning to let go of self-criticism. Learning to let go of overanalyzing. Learning to let go of thinking too much. Learning to let go of being worried about what other people think of you. So he just applied this religiously. He just applied this over and over again. So he just let go of all of the layers that were stopping him loving. So it's a very simple, but it's a very powerful technique. And so just repeat the 3 questions. So let's just play for a minute. So if you can all bring up something that, well, is there anything going on in, or would anyone like to play with me? Has anyone got something that they want to work on right at this moment? So,
Pain.
pain. What aspect of pain?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Okay. Pain, you've got pain in your body. So what is it that has you holding on to the attention of the pain?
Because it's difficult to concentrate on anything else.
Yeah.
It's high.
Yeah. Okay. So could you let go of the difficulty to concentrate on anything else?
Yes, I can. I can let it go.
Yeah. So you don't need to answer. So I'll just cycle through the questions because what I heard there was when I'm in pain, my attention and concentration is on the pain. So I have difficulty letting go of concentrate. So what we're going to do is release the difficulty on being able to concentrate on something else. Yeah? So could you let go of the difficulty in concentrating on something else? Would you let go of the concentration of the difficulty of concentrating on something else? When?
Well, pretty much all the time.
Yeah, just allow it to cycle through. Yeah. Could you let go of the difficulty of concentrating on something else? Would you let go of the difficulty of concentrating on something else? When? Could you let go of the concentration of could you let go of the difficulty of concentrating on something else? Would you let go of the concentration of the difficulty of concentrating on something else? And when? Are you able to concentrate a little bit better on something else? Yeah? And how's your relationship to pain now?
We call it distraction.
Correct. So what's happening is that Sue is focused on, she's actually concentrating on pain. Yeah? Would that be correct?
Well, yes.
Because you're having difficulty not concentrating on pain. Yeah. Here's one thing about the mind. The mind can't process a negative. If I say don't think of a pink elephant, yeah. So if I think, don't think about pain, don't think about pain, don't think about pain, what am I doing? Thinking about pain. Yeah. So when I'm having difficulty concentrating on something other than pain, I'm focusing on concentrating on pain because that's what we're telling our mind.
What would you say when you're busy doing something and you really concentrate on what you're doing, and then the pain comes and interrupt that? So it's the other way around. Where I wasn't concentrating on pain because I didn't have it. But while I was doing something else, the pain came.
Probably I'm going to suggest the one possibility, and this because I'm not in your body, so I'm not exactly sure. Has everyone had the experience like you've been gardening, you cut yourself and you're busy gardening, you're busy doing something, and then you go, oh, I cut myself, ouch, it hurts. Yeah? So sometimes we can be concentrating on something, the pain is still there, but then suddenly something brings it up and our attention goes back here. That's what can happen. Like for example, when I was talking about the guy who had the hernia operation, the pain was there, being cut was there, nerves were being cut, but all he felt was like a prodding, like this. He was able to, for that hour and a half operation, he was able to control his mind, put his attention elsewhere, so that he did not feel the pain of that operation. So what sometimes happens, what happens when we're doing something, we're really focused on it, and then suddenly the pain pops up, our attention goes over here, and we're not able to go back here and let go of that. Does that make sense? No, I can see it doesn't quite. It's like trying to process this.
Yeah, because you'll continue doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you're still concentrating there.
Yeah.
But the pain's still gnawing at you.
Yeah. Because we're paying attention to it.
So you still carry on doing what you're doing. It doesn't take the pain away.
No.
You just work through it.
Exactly. And that's like it's like if we can learn to control our mind, and it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do. But if we can learn to control our mind, to distract ourselves, we say, yes, pain, I accept the pain is there, but then we learn to distract ourselves and just refocus, and then we get back onto concentrating like that.
How would you put that with the severity of pain? There is different levels of pain.
Yeah.
There's a severity that's a hard one.
Yeah.
If you're on medication, pain is still there.
Yeah.
That'd be my hope on that.
There's no easy answer. The only thing I would suggest, because of my experience with working with people, our mind and our brain is a very powerful, powerful tool. And we don't use it to the extent we have. Now, often it's easier, like, I'm just got to be conscious of time. Like, for example, when I'm working, I had a client come in to me, he was like completely stressed, like he was stressed to the max. And he says, look, I don't even know if I can go into a nice, relaxed, hypnotic state. And I said, don't worry, just sit in the chair and we'll see what happens. 5 minutes later, he's out. So because I was able to work with him, it's sometimes easier to like work with somebody else where you actually surrender a bit of control. Because the problem that we have when we're trying to, I'll use the word self-medicate on our own pain, is our mind's doing one thing, it's picking up on the pain, and then we're trying to control picking up on the pain and doing other things, so our mind's trying to do too much. Sometimes it's easier if you've got like perhaps a hypnosis tape, or you've got some music, or you've got something that you can relax to, and you actually surrender and allow yourself to drift to there. But when we've got, extreme pain, the other thing is in terms of hypnosis, if someone is in extreme pain, they're actually in a highly suggestible state. In fact, you can put someone under like that if they're in extreme pain, because they're in that fight-flight mechanism. And so it's actually like if you're in extreme pain, I could have you out like that, and then you wouldn't actually be feeling anything because I have, your conscious mind would just. Yeah, and again, it's training the mind, and there's techniques where you can actually self-hypnotize yourself, and you can go into like if you get really, really good at it, you can go into a control room and you can like dial down the pain. You don't want to get rid of all the pain, but you can dial it down. Like you can take it from a 10 and dial it down to a 2. So there's techniques like that you can work on, so you can learn to relax, put yourself into that state. You can create anchors and triggers that will have you conditioned to go into a state like that. Again, if you do a little bit of research on the internet, you'll see a guy on there who puts himself into a state, then he goes to get a needle and puts it through his arm. No blood comes out or anything, he doesn't even feel it, because he literally numbs that area. You can do things like hypnotic epidurals. Like you can actually like numb half your body. That is the power of your mind. Now, so I guess here I'm suggesting that there's the possibility that each and every one of you, if you actually start to work, and it's not going to be overnight, but each and every one of you could actually start to develop some of those skills yourself. Gentleman down the back.
Yeah, the question was, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I think it would work, but with my experience of fibromyalgia is that if you continue to do what your normal job is or your normal task, which I do,
yeah,
you'll find that it builds up, and then the next day or the third day you'll be flat on your back for 2 or 3 days. So you can work through the pain,
yeah,
but then it'll just make it worse in the
Yeah.
long term. So this would be a short-term fix?
I know fibromyalgia is different for different people, and I know each one of you have unique circumstances. I also know some people have had fibromyalgia, and for whatever reason, they have then worked through some stuff, de-stressed themselves, they've done something in their lives, and the fibromyalgia has actually like gone away.
Because I think when you're trying to concentrate on not hurting, you use so much energy so that after
Correct.
that time you do fall in a thing. But if you stop every now and then and bring yourself back, is that what you're sort of saying? Like you actually do rest, and instead of fighting the pain, you accept the pain and then understand
Yeah.
and then bring it down to rather than just constantly, it hurts, I've got to get this done,
Yeah.
I've got to get through it, because that exhausts you.
Yeah, exactly. Our society isn't geared to healing. Right? If we want to earn money, we've got to go out and work. If we don't work, we don't earn money. What happens when an animal is injured?
Put it down.
Right, okay.
It's only got a little stone in its paw.
Well, I'll reframe that a little bit. If an animal gets sick, it typically just goes away. It actually doesn't eat, and it rests. And it will rest until it heals. So yes, it does put itself down. It doesn't just pass away.
Well, it does, it gets down.
Yeah, it gets down, it lies down, it goes to sleep. Like whenever I've had the flu, whenever I got sick, the best thing I can do is just rest and let the body heal itself. When I push myself, what am I doing when I'm pushing myself? Not healing. I'm getting back into that sympathetic, I'm pulling on my adrenaline, I'm pushing myself, which isn't actually relaxing the body and letting the body heal itself. So I acknowledge your point, and like in an ideal world, you'll actually just rest, you'll let the body heal itself, and you actually manage it so that you don't have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing so you collapse. Because if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like the idea of reducing the pain or
Yeah.
reducing the stress and then managing it at a lower level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's like if you're broken your leg and you give yourself a painkiller, you can't feel your leg, but it's still broken. Pain is there for a reason. Pain is a feedback mechanism. Pain is telling you that there is something wrong that needs to be addressed. That's the way I look at it.
Except in fibromyalgia, it's the messages between the brain and the ligaments and the nerve endings.
Yeah.
A lot of what I've read is that it's not actually the muscle that's paining, it's the messages that's being sent. That's,
Yeah.
I think though, when you are finally diagnosed with fibromyalgia, you've been in pain for so long, you push that away and away and away that your body doesn't know anymore how to read pain. So everything just hurts.
Yeah.
Because you've trained your mind to do.
Because the mind has been trained a different way. I mean, it's a little bit like the people who've lost a limb. You know. Yeah. Okay, I've been given the wind up. Have you guys found this interesting?
Yeah.
Just very quickly, just check in. Did your pain levels change throughout the presentation? Did you notice? Yeah. The awareness, yeah. Did you feel a bit more relaxed at times? Yeah, it is good laughing.
But often when you're sitting down and not doing anything,
Yes.
the pain settles down.
Yeah. That's why I say.
When you get up and try to walk.
Yeah. Okay, my passion is to really help people. I'll just quickly finish with this. What do you see there? You can show this to a 5 or 6 year old actually. If you can't see something like 6 or 7 dolphins, you're thinking about sex too much. Right, there's a dolphin tail, there's its head. There's a dolphin tail, there's a dolphin nose, there's a dolphin tail. We were all once children that only saw dolphins. Thank you very much.